Imagine this. You close your eyes for what feels like a nap, and you wake up 200 years later. Everything you knew, everyone you ever loved, they're all just dust. And you? Well, you are now the legal owner of the entire planet. This isn't just some wild fantasy. It's the absolutely epic and cautionary tale from the mind of H.G. Wells. It's the story of one man, completely ripped from his own time, who wakes up to a future he never could have possibly imagined.
Wells doesn't pull any punches. Right from the get-go, before the story even starts, he calls his own creation a nightmare of capitalism triumphant. He's not trying to be subtle here. He is sounding a massive alarm, basically screaming a warning at us that this vision of the future, it isn't a celebration. No, it's a prophecy of what happens when corporate power is allowed to run completely wild.
For 203 years, just let that number sink in, a man named Graham is lying in a trance, totally still. His mind, who knows where. And the whole time, the world just moves on without him. It forgets him. It builds on his legacy, all while he sleeps. This massive, unbelievable gulf of time sets the stage for his shocking and truly world-shattering awakening.
So, here's how we're going to break down Graham's insane journey. First, we'll dive into his awakening into this bizarre new century. Then, we're going to explore the absolute nightmare of a world that he somehow owns. After that, we'll get into the impossible choice he's forced to make. And we'll wrap it all up with the final epic battle in the skies that will decide the fate of, well, everything.
All right, so the story really kicks off with the opening of an eye. Graham wakes up, but not to his familiar 19th century life, no. He wakes up to reality that is completely, utterly alien. Can you imagine the sheer terror of that moment? The kind of deep, profound disorientation that would shake you to your absolute core.
And his very first words, they're so simple, so normal. They're a request from a life that ended centuries ago. He's asking about his cousin, about sending a telegram. He has no idea, just zero clue that the person he's talking about, the post office, the entire world he remembers, has completely vanished into the pages of history.
This right here shows you just how staggering the change is. I mean, look at this. The world he left behind was ruled by Queen Victoria. He wakes up to find a shadowy, anonymous, white council in charge. He knew a world of small shops, of individual business owners. Now, monolithic, global trusts control every single thing. The countryside, with all its villages and farms, completely gone, paved over for these colossal megacities. And the sound of a horse and carriage? That's a ghost, replaced by the silent hum of flying machines.
And this is the central mystery, isn't it? It's the question that Graham himself just cannot wrap his head around. How could a totally ordinary man from the past, by doing nothing more than sleeping, become the single most powerful and important person in this terrifying future? Well, the answer lies in the relentless, unstoppable power of compound interest.
So how did this actually happen? It all started with a pretty simple trust. Graham's small fortune, plus an inheritance, was just left to grow. And boy did it grow. For 203 years, that money just kept compounding, swallowing up businesses, buying up assets, until it snowballed into one single planet-spanning estate. Legally speaking, he owns it all.
Of course, someone had to manage all that money. And that's where the White Council comes in. They started as simple trustees, but as the fortune grew to include literally everything, their power became absolute. For generations, they've ruled the world with an iron fist, all in the name of the sleeping man they never, ever thought would wake up. They are the architects of this new age, and they are the story's chilling antagonists.
The physical planet itself has been completely re-engineered. You know, the old idea of city versus country? That's gone. Humanity is now packed into these enormous enclosed cities under giant glass roofs. The countryside, the very concept of nature, is basically just a massive factory floor for giant food trusts, dotted with these colossal wind wheels that power this sterile new civilization.
And what about the people in all this? Well, for the poor, for the bottom third of the population, there's only one option: the Labor Department. It started out as a charity, but now it's a system of corporate slavery. If you're hungry, if you're homeless, they'll give you food, shelter, and a blue canvas uniform. The catch? You owe them your labor for life. It's a trap with no way out, a system of mass enslavement that's just disguised as social welfare.
The changes go so much deeper than just tech and politics. The actual fabric of society is unrecognizable. Graham discovers a world that's been stripped of everything he held dear. The family unit? A relic. Children are raised in state-run facilities, taken from their mothers at birth. Faith is just a commodity. with religions being sold through screaming hypnotic ads. For the poor, as we've seen, there is no hope. And for the rich, well, when life gets boring, they can just buy a pleasant, painless end at a state-run euthanasia clinic. In this world, you do not step out of line. Any dissent is crushed without a second thought.
But Graham doesn't stay on the sidelines for long. A violent revolution, one that's been simmering for years, finally explodes. The goal? To overthrow the White Council and liberate the sleeper. Graham is yanked from his prison and thrown right into the middle of the conflict. But he very quickly starts to realize he might have just traded one set of masters for another.
This is Ostrog. He's the charismatic leader of the revolution. He sells himself as a liberator, but what he says to Graham in private, it reveals a truly chilling cynicism. He sees the common people, the masses in those blue uniforms, as nothing more than animals that need to be managed. He didn't tear down the council to free humanity. He did it so he could become a more efficient master himself.
And then you have the complete opposite, a plea from Helen Wotton, who's actually Ostrog's niece. She was part of the revolution, but her reasons were pure. She reminds Graham of the countless ordinary people who gave their lives, not for a new tyrant, but for the hope that the Sleeper, the legendary master of Earth, would be their true savior. She's begging him not to forget what they sacrificed.
So this is it. This is the moral crossroads for Graham. He can just accept a life as a pampered figurehead, right? Let Ostrogrun run the show while he enjoys all the perks of this new world. Or he can embrace the monumental weight of his position and actually fight for the billions of people who see him as their one and only hope.
In the end, the choice is basically made for him. He finds out about Ostrog's ultimate betrayal, a secret plan to bring in a brutal, foreign police force to crush the very people who just fought for freedom. This isn't liberation, it's just a new kind of tyranny with a new boss. For Graham, that's the final straw. He's no longer just an observer, he's now a fighter.
And this is where the whole conflict just explodes into its epic climax. Graham gets it now. Words aren't going to be enough. He escapes, he finds the city's flying stages, and he seizes an aircraft, instantly transforming himself from a historical curiosity into a living, breathing symbol of rebellion right there in the sky.
The final confrontation unfolds pretty quickly. First, Ostrog, totally arrogant in his power, gets his fleet ready. But then, the people, who are now loyal only to the awakened sleeper, they rise up and they storm the airfields. Then, Graham himself takes flight, giving the revolution its heart and its leader. And what follows is a desperate, sprawling battle across the sky for the future of the entire world. And in this moment, in the middle of all this chaos, Graham finally understands his real purpose. He defines a whole new philosophy of leadership. It's not about ownership or inheritance. It's about sacrifice. True power, he realizes, belongs to the person who's willing to face the greatest danger, to carry the heaviest burden for everybody else. He has finally, truly become their king.
In this new world, this is the ultimate truth. There are no borders, no trenches that matter anymore. Whoever controls the skies controls the entire planet below. This single aerial battle isn't just a skirmish. It is the one decisive fight for the future of civilization.
I mean, just look at this timeline. You can really see his incredible transformation, from a confused man lost in time to a reluctant pawn, and then finally to a true revolutionary leader. In just a matter of days, Graham has absorbed 200 years of history and has fully embraced his destiny as the hero this dark future so desperately needed.
So the entire battle really comes down to this personal duel in the clouds. It's a clash of symbols. Graham, representing the lost ideals, the morality of a time long gone, against Ostrog, the embodiment of this new age's efficient, ruthless cynicism. And the fate of every single person on Earth is hanging on the outcome.
H.G. Wells wrote this prophetic nightmare more than a century ago. He warned us about a future dominated by mass media, by untouchable corporate power, by technological wonders that just hide a deep social rot. His sleeper was the ultimate paradox, an ordinary man who owned everything but controlled absolutely nothing. It really forces us to ask ourselves, if he were to wake up today, or 100 years from now, what kind of world would he find?